Hello guys, welcome back to Bobby Computers again. I come back to you with a build, what I promised in the latest video. It's about a 9th generation build, i9 9600K. This processor, unlock processor, is built in MSI motherboard. It's about MSI Gaming Plus. It's not high-end level of motherboard from 9th generation, but it's a very good motherboard, very stable, very good, look very nice looking red with accent of red lights. You can see all this in that small video what I upload in the right corner, and I'm very excited and very satisfied about this motherboard. Processor run very good and very cool, overclock to 5 gigahertz in only 1.32 volts, and actually run very well. Like you see in the image, my started wallpaper for this video with this beautiful MSI logo, red, in a Clover bootloader. Show you what do you expect in this build. Again, it's about Windows Pro and Mac OS. I choose to install Mac Osx Catalina, the latest version, and run very well. I didn't install in OpenCore. I go with the old old version of Clover to install this Mac OS Catalina, and I don't have any issue. Everything worked perfect, internet, audio, USB, all ports, graphic card. Anyway, it's a Radeon, it's about Vega 64 with Polaris BIOS, and it's recognized automatically in Mac OS Catalina. And let's go. First, I'm gonna show Windows 10. Not too many things, only few benchmarks, some stability test to see all the temperatures and voltages and everything, how cool and stable run this CPU overclock to 5 gigahertz. And after we cross little BIOS for this motherboard, it's very easy. It's very look very well, and it's very accessible BIOS from this motherboard. We jump in the Mac OS Catalina, and I hope this time we finish soon with this video. Won't be long like other videos when I present a build with software, hardware, and all details. Okay, to boot in Mac OS, to boot in Windows from this screen, this Clover bootloader screen, you need to access the second icon from Windows, like you see here. Now the screen shows us the boot in Mac OS Catalina. Actually, after we start computer, always go in Mac OS Catalina. You have to move your left arrow from the keyboard and go here. See, not here in the first. Both icons from Windows shows boot Windows, Microsoft FE boot from FE, but second one, actually it's the right one to go in Windows. Press enter and the computer will boot in the latest Windows Pro version this time. And same screen, same application like I usually install for Windows. First information we can find here, it's about this little app Core Temp. What is very useful, I use it in almost every build. and show us the temperature. You see here this CPU, it's 6 core 6 threads, and here you can see the temperature in this moment when the CPU is not loaded, and around 30, 32, 33 degrees maximum. Voltage is here, it's 1.24, which is not correct. To see the real voltages, we open CPU Z. This is a custom CPU Z application, what I find in MSI site for all MSI motherboards. Okay, the core speed for this CPU, you see 5 GHz. It's 95 watts, the power maximum TDP for this CPU. Okay, memory running dual channel, 1900 megahertz or 2, because it's 2, it's dual channel. That means 3800 megahertz, which is more than you need. Okay, DDR4 16 gigs, dual channel, like I said. Here you can see actually the memories. I tell you before in the description of this video, it's about 2 or 8 gigs, 8 data memories, built in Samsung actually memories. They have Samsung memories. You can see here slot number 2, 8 data technology, DDR manufacturer from Samsung, which is very good. Slot 2 and slot 4, the same stick from the same A data technology with memory Samsung. Okay, we can close this program. I'm gonna show only what is about the temperature, stability, graphic card, CPU. I'm not gonna go in details about programs. It's all the same programs. Google Chrome. You can have a quick access here. It's about my backupper, what I use for clone drives. You have Microsoft Word here. Okay, you have Adobe Acrobat DC Pro to organize your PDFs and modify. Edge speed drive test. It's a M.2 NVMe SSD from Samsung. Very speedy. You see 1344 for write and 2700 for read. Very good speed. This motherboard supports 2 slots of M.2 SSD. Okay, Radeon software for our graphic card. Core TEMS. This Dragon Center, it's application for MSI. I'll show you later to change your lights from the graphic motherboard. And that's it. Not so many applications installed. I let you to choose what you want for your build when you use this computer. And okay, we see CPU Z, we see now GPU Z. Information about graphic card. It's about Radeon RX Vega with the GPU Vega 10 Polaris. Run very cool. It's a modified initial original state. This graphic card was a floor graphic card. Very loud and very hot at the same time. And I choose to modify, like you see in the image of the video. I modified that cooling for the GPU, and I put an custom radiator with 3 fans from Arctic Accelera 4 it's about, and keep this GPU very cool, very cool. In full loaded in any games, nearly cross 70 degrees, nearly cross 70 degrees, and it's very quiet, very quiet. You see, I use and I tested in many games. It's run very cool and very quiet. Okay, this is details about graphic card. We can go to test first some benchmarks, Cinebench 15, Cinebench 20, 3D Mark, and AIDA 64. First we're gonna start with Cinebench 15. Okay, I'm gonna run CPU first, and in the same time we keep an eye about temperature here in the corner somewhere. And you see now CPU is loaded 100% and our maximum temperature didn't reach 70 degrees. The fan start to spin a little bit, which is normal for they are set up to start spinning more after 60 degrees temperature. And our score for this CPU overclock to 5 GHz is 1157 CB score. Okay, in OpenGL, I don't run OpenGL because it's an old application. It's not relevant. This score from graphic card for TPS. We're gonna find out details about benchmarks, GPU benchmarks in 3D Mark. Okay, which is more accurate. This is a score for Cinebench 15. You see the score, you see the temperature, maximum temperature reach one time in the core number 3, actually score number 4, 70 degrees, which is perfect. We're gonna close this and we're gonna run Cinebench 20. Cinebench 20 it's more higher and more stressful for the CPU. We have here somewhere here more stressful for the CPU. I ran before, reached 2963. Okay, we run again. Temperature in real time, same 70 degrees. Can open at the same time CPU Z, see frequency 5 GHz, stable for all cores, 1.32 volts for this frequency, which is very good. I don't understand why that video always hide, or it's under the screen of the Cinebench, I think. Okay, 2870 this time. It's no better, it's the same, all there. You have idea about the performance of the processor. But first, an important reason to run this Cinebench is to see if overclocking and the CPU is stable and the temperature in the same time. As you see here, 71, 60, 72, 66, 68. Very good and very good temperature for this CPU in full load. 5 GHz in full load. Okay. We finish with this. Yeah, our video it's closed again. I'm gonna open again. We close this page and we're gonna go to run 3D Mark. It's already installed MSI Afterburner, and we're gonna see in the real time the temperature from the GPU, the temperature from the CPU, frequency, memory, spinning. It's about FreeSync before now. It's not. I don't have FreeSync activated the GPU. I don't know why they show me always this, but it doesn't matter. It's not important. We run SkyDriver as usual, and we're gonna see the score. First to test in these benchmarks are for graphic card, third one is for CPU, and the last one is for combined GPU and CPU. Now we'll see the Vegax 64 up there in the left corner, 51-53 degrees. Second temperature is from memory. 98%, actually it's almost full load, nearly 1500 megahertz. Power consumption is the last, now it's near 220 watts. Okay, fan speed 2075 VPM. Actually, this fan's from Arctic cooler. You see again in the video from the right corner. The maximum speed is around 2100 rotation per minute. Now we have a CPU benchmark. The third application from this is for CPU. Now the CPU start to increase a little bit temperature. 59, cross probably 60, 61, but 90%, 99% load the CPU in 5 gigahertz, only 60 degrees, guys. That's very good, very good. Only 4 gig of RAM from the all amount of 16. And now the combined score, and after that finally we have results. Like I said before in the other videos, this 3D Mark SkyDriver, I think in my opinion is the most complex. You have times by mixed RAM for the GPU score, GPU benchmarks. We are interested here to have the same, all components. With these three SkyDrive, you actually benchmark CPU, GPU, memory, and everything. You have a good image about all components and all hard drive. Okay, the score 42,290 score. It's a very good score. Like you see here, the graphics score very high, 72,500. Okay, this is details about SkyDriver. You have idea. CPU and our build passed the score. Important it's stable, important is temperature. We don't have any error, we don't have any blue screen. That is important. This is the purpose for this all benchmarks. And the last test we do for stability, we run AIDA 64, and we're gonna run for 10 minutes. I'm gonna check anyway this build in offline, and I'm gonna leave it for probably an hour, and I'm gonna run Prime 95 probably the same for a few hours or over the night. Okay, we don't stress GPU, we stress only CPU, cache CPU, and system memory, because this is important. because we overclock CPU, we've overclocked the memory RAM, and we are interested to see if they run stable in this frequency. Okay guys, I see you a little bit later after this test is finished. Alright guys, we're back. 11 minutes from time we start AIDA 64. Like you see, 71 degrees, 70 degrees, 72. System is very stable. Look, this line here, temperature, no spikes, no nothing. All cores run in the perfect timing and almost the perfect temperature. No issue with this overclocking, with memory overclocking and with all system. We're gonna stop this. Now the fans go down, quiet, silence. Again, we stop. AIDA 64, and we touch almost everything here. I don't have nothing else to tell you. We see Cinebench 15, Cinebench 20, 3D Mark, and AIDA 64. And now we start computer. We go for a little look in BIOS, and after we jump in the Mac OS. To go in BIOS, when the messaging screen coming, keep pressing delete K from your keyboard. And this is the BIOS. Quick look. This is the easy mode of the BIOS Explorer. CPU speed 5 GHz, DDR, memory speed 3800 MHz, core temperature 40 degrees, motherboard temperature 30 degrees, BIOS mode UEFI of course, the motherboard Mpg Z390 Gaming Plus, Intel Core i5 9600K. This is the stock frequency, the memory size 16 gigs, V-core for this overclock 1.328 volts, DDM voltage 1.45, BIOS version, this is the latest BIOS version. I update this BIOS with the latest version, 12 August 2020. The motherboard, it's new, even if it's 1 year and something old. I bought this motherboard from internet in the new condition. I opened first time the box. I opened the first time the IO shield. When IO shield is in the folia sigillate, that means nobody use the motherboard. Okay. Because I talk about motherboard condition, I talk about CPU condition. CPU the same, it's 1 year old, was never used actually in the daily use in the build. This was bought for a build. That build come, but we already upgrade the CPU. I never run this CPU in that build because in the meantime I find an i9 version of CPU 9th generation, i9 9900K, and actually this CPU I use only for a few hours, few tests in the past, and now I decide to make this build to give someone else chance to have a build with this CPU. Okay, this is the story about motherboard and processor. Yeah, GPU, it's used from a few years. It's a Vega 64 dual BIOS with the blower edition with the radiator and fans upgraded with the custom radiator. I talked earlier about this, and they are very good together, all three together, the motherboard, the CPU and the GPU. They work perfect together. It's not any kind of issue or bottleneck. BIOS, guys, motherboard settings, advantage. Here it's about all components. I don't go into all this because it's not important for this. You can anytime messing with this to see what about is in OC mode. Okay, overclock mode, you see here expert mode, all core, CPU ratio 5 GHz for all cores, fixed mode for CPU ratio, ring ratio 45 for all cores, of course, DDR, memories overclock to 3800 MHz. Alright, the voltages override mode with the 1.3, actually 1.33, but the motherboard use only 1.32, 28, you see here. DDR voltage, I increased this from 1.2 to 1.45 because from 2066 megahertz I overclocked the memory to 3800. That you must see here. What I want to show you here is to update your BIOS. We don't go now because it's already up to date. Okay, we go in the overclock profile. You find here a Mac setup. Mac setup, what is mean? When I start to use with a motherboard, I don't know so many details about motherboard, and I make first after I run optimize default from the motherboard, I make a profile with optimized settings for the Mac OS. What I know, for any kind of Hackintosh, you need to enable or disable some settings from the BIOS for any kind of motherboard or specific kind of motherboard. But usually in the Hackintosh, when you work with the new hardware, 8th generation, 7th generation, here I talk about Intel, not about AMD. I don't have so much experience with AMD motherboards and CPUs. I usually work with Intel because they are more stable and in my opinion they are more trust. Okay, when I talk about Intel and I talk about here 6th, 7th generation, 8th, 9th generation and 10th generation, all they are used, especially 6th to 9th generation, use the Intel with the 1151 LGA socket, and all settings, doesn't matter, it's from Gigabyte, from MSI, from Asus, from either kind of motherboard with this kind of processor, all settings are almost the same. I talk about settings for Mac OS to make a Hackintosh, and for the first time I do that settings, and I apply for a custom profile for Mac setup settings. When you start to build a Mac OS, the recommendation is to don't, even for Windows is the same, never install a Windows installation, a Windows or a Mac OS operation system after you overclock the CPU. Always install the operation system in the optimized defaults from the motherboard and CPU. Never install when after you overclock, because you can find some issues and you have some I don't know, blue screens or restart or black screen or something like that, and you don't know from why it's happened that. It's happened because you change some details and some settings in the motherboard, And of course, for operation system, when you install the operation system, that is not recognized, and you have a blue screen. That's mean you always run and install the operation system in main defaults of the motherboard, in optimized defaults. When you install the Mac OS, the same story. You need, this is recommendation to install in optimized defaults, and this is the overclock profile 1 make setup. Which I do here in the profile number 1. It's an optimized default to install any Mac OS. If you want to reinstall the Mac OS, always before you start to install, load this profile 1, and your USB installer will be recognized. Your installer will work without problem. And second overclock profile is this 5 gigahertz, which we have now loaded. It's tested in any benchmark, in any stability test, run very well. This compatibility between frequency, temperature, voltages for vCore and for DDR, they are in balance, and the system is very stable. You have this profile already saved here, and you have more room for another 4. I think that's it for the BIOS. You see how it look. We go back now, we press F10 and we go in the macOS, guys. F10, yes, and that's it. When you boot, now you go straight away in the Clover bootloader, and it's already set up. Look, boot macOS from Catalina, which press only enter, and the system go in macOS. Like in any setup, what I do, 1, 2, 3, 4 is the password. And here we are. First impression about this Mac. iMac 2019 generation. It's recognized. Retina 5K 27-inch. The hardware for this computer, it's similar with the iMac 2019 5K Retina. Processor 3.7, 6-core Intel Core i5, memory 16 GB of RAM, 3800. It's very strange here because this about this Mac show us the stock frequency from the processor, but actually it's running 5 GHz, but the memory show us the overclock version of the memory. It doesn't matter, it's the same anyway, and it's work exactly like in Windows. Graphic cards Radeon RX Vega 64 with 8 gigs. System report details the same, iMac 19.1, details about processor, about boot room version. No Bluetooth, no Wi-Fi in the system. If you are interested to have a custom adapter for Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, I can recommend you one. Just let me know in the comment from the video and I give you details. Or for a USB dongle, the same. I have some good USB dongles compatible with Mac OS. Graphic cards, what is interesting to see here. Graphic cards, I tell before, Radeon RX Vega 64. It's installed in the PCI Express 16. The speed, the resolution. Of course, it's a metal support one, compatible with the Mojave and up to Mojave Catalina and the Big Sur. Probably I never installed Big Sur, but probably I do it soon. Memory, what you see here, only 2 slots. NVMe Express, here is our Samsung NVMe SSD for Windows. PCI Express here supposed to be graphic card, but not show nothing. SATA Express, we have our Kingston SATA 204 gigs where is the macOS installed, and we have a disk for storage, 2 terabytes, what is installed in this computer. USB 3.1, the speed from the USB in this motherboard, Actually, Mac OS recognized 3.1, but official from this build is 3.2. We have 3 or 4 USB slots, 3.2. Okay, we finish with this. We can close this. In application, same usual application what I install in every build, Clover configurator to work for your FE folder in your BIOS for the Mac OS. Asia system test, Blackmagic. This is a program for memory, cache memory, clean all the time. Cinebench 20, Interpower gadget. Here we can see the temperature and the frequency from CPU all the time. The power consumption, the frequency, you see core average 5.0, 549. This is the real-time frequency. Temperature 43 degrees, 50 degrees. We have another program here, iStat menus, which is not free. If you are good and you like it, you can buy. It's only a few euro for a full-time and lifetime license. Actually, you don't need to pay monthly for this. It's very good. You see here temperature for Radeon RX Vega 32 degrees. Here CPU frequency and CPU temperature. Very good application. Here you have a graphic image for your temperature and for your utilization core. Alright, we go again, same programs, Google Chrome. This is iStat program what I talked about before. Final Cut Pro X, Logic Pro X, two programs to convert your audio files and video files, Messenger for desktop, MP player, parallel desktop to install virtual machines, Photoscape X, very nice and good application to edit your photos, RAR extractor, SD card formatter, Steam for games. You can install and run this Steam for games. Super Duper to clone your drive. TextMate. This is an application you can modify some files like a playlist or probably you don't need this, but it's here. VLC program, HW monitor. I never use this, I don't know. Probably, I think not iStat, Intel Power Gadget installed this to monitorize. Microsoft Word. And that's it, guys. This is the programs what usually I install in this Mac. We're gonna run very little short some benchmarks like the same like in the Windows. We must have here Cinebench 15. Okay, i5 906K CPU benchmark with Radeon RX Vega 64. We have to use to run a little bit these benchmarks, the Cinebench 15 and Cinebench 20, because not in this build, but I have another build, 10th generation with the 10700K with the Radeon graphic card as well. It's about RX 5700 XT, and there I have installed Mac OS Catalina as well. And every time when I run Mac OS Catalina in the overclock, that CPU the same, it's overclock 5555, common 1 GHz, and every time when I run Mac OS in that build, it's automatically restart when I use Cinebench 15, for example. Actually, it's not stable on when I overclock the CPU. I have to run that custom profile from BIOS with the lowest frequency from the CPU, and Mac OS is stable in that frequency. When I run in 5 GHz or 7, or if I, for example, if I run in 5 GHz, I have to increase the voltages in 3.5. What for Windows I only use 1.3 volts, and I don't know why motherboard, and it's a very expensive motherboard. doesn't work so good with the Hackintosh. But in this build, like you see here, Cinebench 15 is running 5 GHz. This is the score. It's important the system work, Mac OS work in this frequency. This is the purpose for this test. Okay, now we run Cinebench 20. Now Cinebench 20 is installed like application here. You can see the real temperature if you click here, and now you can see in the real time up CPU frequency 5 GHz and CPU temperature 64 degrees, 97%, 98% load. Radeon Aries Vega 64 is not benchmark now. It's not used. I can run a benchmark score for graphic card in macOS, but it's not point because the graphic card was tested in Windows with 3D Mark and it's work absolutely perfect. You can see the frequency as well if you open this. Same story. Power consumption. Frequency, maximum speed 5 GHz, temperature very good, very in the middle range of the graphic, and utilization 100% almost. CPU. And that's it, guys. This is the score, 2,963 points. Before was 2,984, but it's very good. It's very good, and important. The system is stable, didn't crash, all good in the place. Okay, no, I don't want to save for the moment. That's it, guys. This is Mac OS. I don't go so much in deep in this because it's not point. All program is here. This is the memory, what I'm talking about. Clean your memory if the memory go a little bit down, but will be never situation in this build. Okay, you have here information from iStat menu about temperature, about frequency. Here it's about drives. You see Mac OS Catalina. This is the Windows, and this is that 2 terabytes. It's almost full. It's my stuff there, but I'm gonna clean. Okay, and that's it, guys. This is the build. This is the build. I called him red because all lights in this system are red. The fans are red. The motherboard have light reds. GPU light reds. It's built in the Cooler Master case. It's very nice. Everything is red, outside, inside, and all good in the place. I hope you like this video, guys, and I see you later with another video. Bye for now from Bobby Computers. See you, guys.